In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the Colossus of Akros is described as a massive golem made of bronze and iron that was placed at the entrance to the polis of Akros. In times of great need and emergency, the priests of Perforos within the city could perform a lengthy ritual and channel all of their divine powers into the Colossus and bring it to life to defend the city. This was exceedingly rare, as just the sight and the legend of the Colossus was typically enough to prevent an attack. The Colossus of Akros has an AC of 21, 350 HP, and a move speed of 60 feet. It has amazing strength and constitution, but its other stats are pretty terrible. It has a whopping plus 16 to strength saves and a plus 14 to con saves, as well as huge bonuses in athletics and perception. It is completely immune to fire, poison, psychic, and non-magical attacks, and it's also immune to the charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, stunned, or unconscious conditions. It has the trait Crumbling Destruction, that causes it to crumble to debris when it hits 0 HP. Any creature within 30 feet of it when this happens must succeed on a dex save, or else they take 4 to 40 bludgeoning damage and 4 to 40 fire damage. The Colossus can also absorb fire damage, healing instead, and is immune to any magic that would alter its form. In combat, it can make 2 melee attacks with either its spear or its sword. The spear has a range of 200 to 600 feet and deals 13 to 33 damage one-handed, or 13 to 41 damage when used double-handed in melee. If it's thrown, it returns to the Colossus' hand automatically at the end of the throw. The sword deals 15 to 57 damage and has a range of only 15 feet. Alternatively, it can use its action to activate Flames of Akros, which cannot be used again unless it rolls a 6 on a d6 at the start of its turn. It chooses 3 players to target within 90 feet. Those targets must then succeed on a dex save or else take 8 to 64 fire damage. On a failure, they're also ignited, and they must re-roll the save at the end of their turn to put out the fire. If they fail again, they're dealt an additional 4 to 32 fire damage and remain on fire. As a DM, I would use the Colossus of Akros as it's intended, as a massive construct that defends the city with its life. You can always reskin this Colossus to fit your campaign, and retool the damage type to fit the massive creature that you want your party to fight. Regardless, I would always position the Colossus of Akros in a central location around party members, trying to stay within range of ranged casters. With high defenses and immunities, most of the higher level crowd control spells are going to be pretty useless. I would use Flames of Akros every turn that it's available, as the damage is massive, and it allows you to target 3 players instead of the 2 that you get with multi-attack, and it's also guaranteed to deal some damage even if they succeed on their save. In addition to all of that, the damage over time from anyone being set on fire can be extremely dangerous, even to those players who are resistant to fire. On turns when it can't use the flames, I would have the Colossus strike out once with a spear, hurling it at the healer of the party or ranged DPS if the healer's already down. Then I would have it use a sword strike against whatever melee player is dealing it the most damage. This ensures that the healer must stay in range of all players, and keeps people relatively bunched up for the Colossus to be able to attack them. Should it ever come close to dying, I would have it try to get as close to as many players as possible to try and take them out with its dying explosion. In mythology and history, the Colossus of Rhodes is said to be a gigantic statue of bronze and iron depicting the sun god Helios. It was built in the city of Rhodes in the year 280 BC, and was built looking out at the sea, meant to give the impression of the sun god himself keeping watch for any who would try to siege the city. It was listed as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and was built in commemoration of the successful defense of the city against the armies of Demetrius I of Macedon, who had tried to take it over for about a year with a massive army and a naval force. According to some records, the Colossus of Rhodes was 70 cubits tall, which equates to around 33 meters or 108 feet, which is roughly the same height as the Statue of Liberty. It was the largest statue of the ancient world, and the crown jewel of Rhodes, but sadly, it was utterly destroyed in a massive earthquake in 226 BC, only 54 years after its construction. It snapped at the knees and unfortunately fell backwards onto the city, causing a ton of damage and death. According to historical records of the time, an oracle claimed that the Rhodians had offended the sun god Helios, and that this was his punishment. Therefore, it was left destroyed, though some of its parts were preserved. As time went on, Rhodes was hit by at least 2 massive earthquakes per century, due mainly to its location, and as such, the remains of the Colossus were further damaged. People both foreign and domestic would occasionally steal portions of the remains, and eventually Rhodes was Christianized, and all preservation on what was considered a pagan monument was halted. We don't know for sure, but it's assumed that the metal of the statue was taken to be used in making coins, tools, and artwork. In comparing the monster to the myth, we find that the Colossus of Akros is simply the fantasy version of the Colossus of Rhodes. Both are massive statues standing stalwart at the sea entrance to their respective cities, but one of them can actually come to life and defend their home should the city ever need its protection. If you enjoyed that video, please leave a like and comment below, and consider subscribing to the channel. You can also join the Patreon for $1 a month to access videos days before they're posted here, as well as other exclusive stuff like short stories, videos, and more.